Greetings and salutations, gamers. Welcome to Cast Co-op, the podcast in which three podcast hosts cast together. I am one of your hosts, Luke Lore, the Insipid Ghost and host of the Xbox Expansion Pass, joined by the host of the PlayStation podcast, Trophy Room. Hello, Mr. Badbit.
What's up? What's going on?
I purposely mixed up the name of your show and not mine, and I want you to enjoy that. There we go.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm loathing it.
Yeah, it's driving him nuts, and I like it. Episode 1, looking good. We are also joined by the big brother of the group, the responsible one, Seasoned Gaming's Ainsley Bowden. Ainsley, welcome to episode 1 of Cast Co-op.
What's going on? Good to be here. Nobody calls me Ainsley.
Nobody, not a single person. He goes by poor
shopper.
Ains, poor. I realized as I said it, I don't know how to pronounce your name proper.
You're kidding at this point, right?
I think what we need to focus on here is that I'm trying to make amends at the beginning of the episode.
You realize it's Porsche Power, like the car.
It's
right?
Porsche Power, just like the car.
I'm just gonna be real, and maybe this is me, like episode 1 of the intervention. When I read Ains's like Twitter like handle, I'm like, oof, my dyslexic brain does not know which way is up, down, left, right.
I've had people on Xbox Live call me poor shopper, and I'm like, I'm not a poor shopper.
People call me insipid, intrepid, and then they compliment me by calling me insipid, and they don't know what that word means either. And it's an enjoyable thing. I've had that gamer tag since like 2006. It's fun.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, everyone.
Yeah, there we go. So the premise of our show is essentially that we have these antics that go on in our banter on the regular, I suppose is the right thing to say, as we coordinate our various separate shows. And we thought we would bring a bit of that with some gaming goodness along to your feeds. It is a bi-weekly, every other week is how we bi-weekly, bi-monthly. It's bi-weekly, right? That's how we say that properly? Yeah, every 2 weeks.
Every other month.
It's every other week.
Sorry, every other week. Sorry.
Yeah, see, dyslexic. We're having a good time. Look at Ains. He's already like, what have I done? This is awesome. Oh gosh, Ains, are you okay? Do you want to reset? You good? Yeah. All right, there we go.
No.
So each and every episode, we will each bring a topic or two, and we'll just see how it goes. Chat about different things in the gaming verse, as it were, along with just being goofballs and riffing on one another. I'm really looking forward to podcasting with Ains, and we're gonna have a good time there. It's gonna be good.
I feel the same way. I can't wait. Every other week, I'm sitting here with my two good friends, Ains and the other guy I can never remember. But honestly, the whole mission of this show, as like Ains and I, we've had our private conversations, our DM Luke, where it is trying to bring an intelligent conversation around games and the culture around it, and at the same exact time having a fun, informative talk about it, because oftentimes we see the dumb thumbnails of like shocked expression down at the lower left, is Sony dead, is Xbox done, what this Bethesda really means, whatever, all that dumb stuff. And really, it's the show, the mission for me at least, is to bring that fun banter that we often have, whether you're just like sitting in a car with your friend just talking on your car ride home, or at the lunch table, whatever the case may be, of just talking about games and the things that and the reasons as to why we're so passionate about them.
Love it.
And
Joe took it to a serious level for a moment, but I like it.
He did. And I would imagine, being that this is episode 1 and we're letting the audience that decided to jump on the train early know, I'm sure the show is going to evolve. I'm sure the show will change as we find our rhythm and cadence and whatnot. That's my thought.
No, I think you're right. I'm looking forward to it too. It's always funny talking to both of you, which is why we did this, right? We always have a laugh when the three of us are talking. So in all seriousness, these two can riff on each other, and I'll just kind of sit back and drink some tea and have some laughs. I think it's gonna be good.
Is it tea in the cup? Is it really
tea? Yeah, it's tea. I'm old, man. I'm old.
He's responsible.
What type of tea?
That's green tea. Straight green tea.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, green tea. I'll do a little mint green tea.
Okay.
No, mint green tea's great.
No, I don't need mint. Don't need mint. Just green.
No,
Green's the best flavor.
I like an herbal gray. But also, like with tea, it's just like, well, I'm sick at this moment, so I need this. It's not like
I'm English, man. It's in my DNA.
All right. Well,
I got some tea.
I fought a war to escape.
Let's hear that accent again, Luke. Let's
some
try
tea
that
and
again.
Crumpets. Tea and crumpets. All right, boys. Hey, Xbox Live has changed its name to the Xbox Network, and there's probably a lot of underlying realities that are good with that because it's a smart name, I suppose. But it really kind of bugs me because that was the one good naming convention I think Xbox has just nailed, and now it's kind of withering into the wind. My topic that I was going to bring to the show this week was really about communications from the big three, from Nintendo, from Sony, from Microsoft, how they communicate with their fans. Sometimes it's tweets. Sometimes it's a press release that goes out at 5 p.m. when they're going to raise the price of something. Other times we get these direct state of plays. We get inside Xboxes. And so what I wanted to do was poke and prod your brains just a little bit to think back to the last year and a half or so from the Game Awards 2019. We found out about the Series X, and we really knew that next gen was on the horizon. And over the course of COVID and this past year and the launches of the systems, how have these big three communicated with their fans? Have they done it right? As we get news like Xbox Network to all the way to the release dates or delays for big games like Halo Infinite. When I say communication from the big three, what goes through your minds?
Immediately for me, it's Rona. Like how this. The stay at home and all that has affected the way we communicate on a daily basis to each other, whether that's, marketing, whether that's focusing on these digital events rather than having them at locations, or like communicating to your teams have totally changed overnight. And it's interesting to see off the gate, these companies react rather, I would say, navigating it rather well and fast to meet these issues head on. And it's taken a lot of creativity. I know, at least in the PR end, it's taken a lot of creativity of getting their voices out now more than ever. And I think if anybody has done, because they've all had their ups and downs, they've all had their blunders, their mistakes, but I think if there's anybody that's done it the best so far, like out of the big three, is I love the way Xbox is talking to us like it's people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd agree. I think I don't know. Nintendo's always a weird one for me because they just I don't see much out of them. They had their first what do they call it? Not state of play. I always think of state of
direct.
Play. Thank you. They had their first direct, and it was like 560 days since they had the last full direct, right? And they had it, kind of went by, nothing really earth-shattering. They left out a lot of big titles people were looking for. And other than that, they don't really communicate. They say something when there's an update to Animal Crossing or when there's a title coming, and that's about it. Yeah. And I feel that really impersonal with Nintendo. Whereas to Joe's point, Xbox, they, for right or wrong, and so I've said before, sometimes it almost feels like they communicate with their fans via Twitter or social media too much the other direction, right? Like they get involved in conversations or retweet things I probably think executives probably shouldn't be doing. But for the most part, I think they overwhelmingly do a really good job of sharing the love of the brand with the fans. And to be fair, I think PlayStation sits in some middle ground there, but I really would love to see PlayStation, somebody like Shu is awesome. But who's hanging out and talking to Jim Ryan? Nobody.
No.
He's just not that guy. Herman Holst, he's corporate. He just talks about, here's what the studio's doing. Great to see. It's like I wish they had some people that were more out in front and kind of celebrating PlayStation with the fans.
Well, it's like Gone is Reggie from Nintendo.
Yeah, he had a personality.
He had a personality. Yeah. He's out there too. Gone is Sean Layden. Shu's role seemed to be reduced on the Sony side. Xbox, I think they need new personalities, and I think they're trying to do that because I think Major Nelson is fading a bit in terms of relevancy with like younger demographics. Like we know him, but I don't think like my 20-year-old gaming friends might, and that's like 15, 20 years younger than me, and like 55 years younger than Ains. I'm not sure. But
he should. Luke's just going for us tonight.
I'm on fire today. I'm feisty.
And only 2 years younger than Joe. I mean, it all works out.
There you go. Exactly. It's exactly. But when you think about it, the Xbox guys, those Major Nelson not as relevant any longer. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why they're trying to escalate names like Sarah Bond, to be more in the mindset on the stage. And maybe those aren't one-to-one.
Take over their social media stuff too, and he's really strong.
If you can survive and keep Mixer branding afloat for as long as they did with the lack of support, you deserve it. And I'm saying that as a former Mixer streamer, right? Stein's great, and that social media team was gold, and now they're bringing that gold to Game Pass handles and the Xbox social handles. I mean, they navigated that leak really well way back when the Series S leaked.
Right, yeah.
I mean, they've done a good job with a lot of those elements. But to your point, sometimes they do over communicate. Sometimes,
especially the Xbox brand. Sometimes on Twitter, overextends itself. Like, it's done a great job and this is just like such a like peon in the whole grand scheme of things, but like oftentimes it does feel like it's too personality driven. Like the feed itself, there is a comfort in the way Sony does their PR on Twitter, where it's like, I know exactly if there's going to be big news because I have it where, I know if at 9 a.m. PlayStation doesn't tweet something's going down. I know what games I should be looking at, paying attention to. They're very deliberate. That's what Sony is, I think. Whereas Xbox, it's very much of like, we got some memes and this is going to drive some engagement, which is going to drive the personality of our brand, make us seem more fun, youthful, and that we get each other. So I get what Xbox is trying to do there. It's just, for me, it is like, okay, as much as I like that, I also want you to talk about the games, and highlight some indies rather than like, Halo with the Master Chief with a cat head on being a DJ gifts.
Okay. Caveat. Caveat. We're recording this the day before the ID at Xbox showcase.
Absolutely.
So you're talking bigger picture, not like acutely in like recent weeks. You're talking like overall.
Yeah, big picture stuff. Big picture stuff. I can obviously see where they should like Stein, who is very much their PR liaison, it seems like, right? Like, I could definitely see where his influences are, and for the most part, I think they're really good. I think Xbox's mission is different on Twitter than like a PlayStation's is, just the PR lens. So I get why they're out and open, but for me, sometimes I'm just like, okay, but just also give me the hard facts. And I don't want to get lost in your Twitter feed trying to find like that ID event, which is a great example. Like, I was trying to find the times on their Twitter the other day, and I couldn't. And all I'm seeing is like these replies to these other things. So it's like, there has to be a balance there. I think sometimes they do, like Ains said, they kind of over extend themselves with their own transparency. Sometimes they just shoot themselves in the foot there.
Okay. So that, all right, in my mind, Ains, you mentioned that kind of double-edged sword at one point.
Yeah.
That personality, do they run the risk of being so personable? Because in my mind, if they're so personable, once I get bad news, I feel betrayed. Is that a reasonable thing?
I probably from a mentality standpoint, I would say, because what they're doing, right, is for right or wrong, and I think we would all agree wrong. But you see it as well as I do, that there's people out there who really truly think that Phil Spencer's their friend. And that, hey, I can tag Phil Spencer on Twitter, and if he responds, he's listening and he's watching, and and that's why people tag Phil and Aaron and Major Nelson like 9,000 times a day about almost meaningless things, because they feel like they have this open relationship there, which again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I just think it's almost too open. And
it
so
sometimes leads. And I'm sorry, just interrupt for a sec. It always also kind of seems, it also seems like it's a cult of personality sometimes.
Yes.
Like, it kind of creeps me out a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
No, it does. It crosses that line a little bit, and I think that's what I was saying. Like, the people who are really well known for being that pro Xbox with a slant, not like Luke, who's pro Xbox but doesn't have a slant. Like the the people I'm talking about. When like someone like Aaron Greenberg retweets them or, praises something they do. I think that actually, for the broader picture of expanding your market base, just in my opinion, I think that actually hurts you. Because even though you're doubling down on the core fan base. That core fan base is already your core fan base. Whether or not you retweet that, you're not emboldening that, in my opinion. Whereas the people who are on the edge, or maybe more Nintendo and PlayStation, but not opposed to Xbox, they're looking like, yeah, this on the outside in, it looks weird, and it looks like there's some irregularities, bias. I don't know the word you want to use, but you guys know what I mean. Like,
no, I definitely know what you mean. It's like when Aaron Greenberg like retweets someone with like the Phil Spencer bazooka, Series X.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Where it's just like even to me, it's kind of like it borders on like this weird fetish thing. Sometimes it feels,
and they're trying to be funny with it and enjoy it and laugh with their community, and I get all that, and I think that's good. But there is a very fine line there between cult of personality is a great way to say it. It's just there's a fine line there, and I sometimes I think they step over it a bit.
Yeah. I always think back to when I think it was 2017, when pretty heavy into the Xbox One gen, Spencer taking over. We still had personalities at PlayStation and Nintendo, but Play Anywhere became the initiative that Microsoft was pushing. Right, the idea that if you buy a game on Xbox, you're also getting it on PC, and messaging that together. I enjoyed when I saw Spencer and other execs. Who went to Blizzard? Yeah, I love him to death. He went to Blizzard.
Rod Ferguson.
Not Rod.
Rod Ferguson.
Nope, I'm thinking somebody else.
Right?
Mike Ibarra is who I was thinking of. When he and Spencer and a few others were responding to fans, like criticisms, like discussing with them, and somebody was like, "I'm not going to do this anymore because you said we'd have exclusive games," and the response was, "Why would you be upset that more people can play a game you like?"
Yeah, and
that was the executive's response, and it didn't feel PR driven. It felt personable. It also didn't feel like somebody with a bazooka taking out, PlayStations with a Series X, because I don't go for that. That's not my personal interest level, right? I don't want blind fandom and as we often say, like Joe and I play crossplay all the time in various games, and there's no interest in truly attacking another console. And so that messaging always makes me wonder. Meanwhile, Nintendo will be over there tweeting like, please don't keep asking for Waluigi or something,
That's what I mean. They're just on another planet. Like they're just, and I think they have the benefit of doing that for the Nintendo fan base. They're used to that. They don't expect any different, and it's not going to change any way they support Nintendo. So they can get away with it. Whereas I think PlayStation, Xbox gamers are a little more fickle.
Yeah, there's definitely some there's a strength of where Nintendo's at right now at this moment, where they are looked upon as like, oh yeah, that's your secondary console. Like for us Xbox and PlayStation folks, right? Like that's the secondary thing, so I can play my Mario. But other than that, like, it is always strange for me looking at the Nintendo groups, because they are, from the outside looking in, really like happy and content with being treated like shit. like they'll be like, yeah, you get an online service, you're paying for it. It sucks, but it's cheap, and you know, it's like, okay, this is great.
I was joking
like their screen quality.
I was joking with friends about Monster Hunter Rise, which is their huge game launching here in the first quarter, right? Exclusive. It has literally no game chat, not even through the Nintendo app. And it's like, how does that even happen in 2021? How does that happen?
Wait, there's no way to talk to each other at all.
No.
They had that on Metroid Prime Hunters on the DS.
No, it even says in the description when they answer it, you have to use other methods or PCs.
Wow.
So, like, who's okay? Like, I would never. Could you imagine if just pick a game, any PlayStation or Xbox major game? I was joking, Outriders. Like, People Can Fly comes out and says Outriders, 3-player co-op, you're gonna love it. And by the way, you can't communicate with one another. Like, what?
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
It would kill a lot of drive or a lot of matchmaking. Right?
Yeah,
you'd have to know somebody ahead of time. You wouldn't be able to.
You don't even see Monster Hunter Rise got like 90 Metacritic. You don't even see anyone. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
And the excuse is like, different audience, different.
There's always an excuse. Like,
what the?
I actually wrote an article like 2 years ago, literally titled "Stop Making Excuses for Nintendo," and I listed all the things they do poorly that they shouldn't do in 2018 at the time, which haven't really changed. I could publish it tomorrow. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But that goes back to power of catalog. We, as gamers, as a community in online spaces and socials, are, I think, very quick to jump down Xbox's throat.
Yeah.
When they make a misstep, despite them, I think at the moment being the most consumer friendly of the big three, the big three. Easy for me to say.
You got it.
And you know, like I could say
tough words right there, man.
They're tough. They're big boy kids. You know, here we go. But you know, I would cite Game Pass and a few other initiatives as being very consumer friendly, back and pat and the like. And then from there, I would say Sony kind of comfortably in the middle. They get away with some things, not with others. Remember that crossplay communication was really botched really at bad, first.
Yeah. And they're catching some flack right now for the whole save stuff with games.
Right. And rightly so in many ways, particularly with what is it, smart delivery versus, you know, a couple other elements of
not
upgrading
so smart
software.
Delivery. Yeah.
Oof,
but they're also getting praise for the improvements they've made to PS Plus games to play at home now. You know, they are kind of building that. They're kind of finding their own way to offer more content to their player base outside of a service like Game Pass, which is cool.
And as they should, but I think the bigger point that I'm going to, and I want to come back to that, Ains, because I think very much so that the power of your catalog determines how much people are willing to put up with, how much they're willing to allow you some slack. And right now, the catalog for Xbox, I would argue, is the weakest in terms of first-party IP that are new and special, right? God of War, Horizon, Spider-Man, Ghost of Tsushima. I knew Joe was going to get on me if I didn't say that. Bloodborne. They haven't made a sequel to Bloodborne, so it must not be that popular. So it's like, why even bother?
They haven't even updated it. I mean, what the hell?
It's like, whatever. Like, why do you even care, right? And with Nintendo,
just to be clear, I care that they haven't.
Yeah. Also, I can't wait for that Justice League sequel, Luke.
Really, Ains? Okay, first of all, Snyder Cut was good. I can be insufferable for at least another week.
No,
second of all, Ains,
I'm all for joking about Bloodborne, but if we're going to go down the Bloodborne path, you've got two people against you here, so I'd move on.
Lords of the Fallen's getting a sequel. That's all I'm trying to say.
Come on, no.
It's not going to happen.
No, I mean, you play the games in between the ones you really want to play.
Exactly. Anyway, Luke, what was your bogus point?
Where were you going?
Zack Snyder's Justice League, guys. Let me tell you.
Okay.
How about that really 4.3 though?
The power. Look, here's the deal. It was his vision. All right, we got to respect him. Nonetheless, the power of IP affords us, I think, leeway in some cases and not in others. And until Microsoft's landing those God of War level IPs, they won't get that same leeway. And thus, back to my original topic, their communication has to be more on point, setting appropriate expectations, as they've started to make an effort to do. PlayStation, to their point, or to their effort, they've got more leeway to get away with some things, right? Yeah. But I think that goodwill is fading the longer we go on from this launch with no exclusive anything. Ratchet and Clank being the first to shift that. Am I off base on this?
No, I don't think you're wrong one bit. I think when it comes to now focus to PlayStation's communication, they are. I have the feeling of like they are transitioning themselves to be a Nintendo in the way that they communicate and how they feel like they have this culture with them, and that culture they could spend some goodwill points here or there, and they'll make up for it when Returnal hits, and it's a good game. When Ratchet and Clank comes out, Horizon, the God of War 2s, Ghost of Tsushima, all that starts piling up. So that's where I think PlayStation's at. When I take a look at their communication, although it is clear, it isn't personable at all. I don't really see them, communicating with their audience nowhere near the level of an Xbox or even the level of Nintendo at times. They tend to let their studios be the personalities. That the PlayStation social is kind of the hub for the on the surface level stuff that they want. It's all the information, and Insomniac's the one that's going to give you the Weapon Wednesdays, right? Like Naughty Dog's the one that's going to celebrate their successes with you and tell you who's going to be in their next big movie. Same with, with the Ghost of Tsushima devs at the moment, Sucker Punch, talking about the movie that's in the development. So like they really let their developers do the talking and not them. And sometimes I feel like that's a benefit because you let these, the people celebrate these studios. They definitely get that. But at the same exact time, I'm like, when I see Xbox talking, I'm like looking at my PlayStation. And I'm like poking it with a stick. I'm like,
do something.
Do something.
By the way, Luke, I quickly made a Snyder cut version of Cast Co-op for you. So for fans, from now on, we can just film like that.
Nice. That's
it's my vision. Don't argue with me. It's my vision.
Please make it black and white if you want to really respect it. The movie was good. No one can get mad at me about anything. I was right.
All right, Luke. On track here.
Focus. But so Joe brings up the studios having their personality, and to a point, I think he's right. Neil Druckmann and Corey Barlog, I've tweeted them. They've answered me several times.
Corey is awesome.
Yeah, Corey is. Corey's my best friend. Get wrecked, Joe.
Here we go. See? Here we go.
Cool. But I feel like I could tweet Bonnie Ross or Joseph Staten, and they would never even, one, I don't feel like they would see it, and I don't know that they would even answer. But the Xbox Twitter handle will answer. Yeah. The PlayStation Twitter handle does not. So there's a real flip in communication method there. And if you want to talk to Nintendo, you write a handwritten letter.
In 4 to 6 weeks, they may respond.
They might.
Did I tell you guys the story? Here's an anecdote for you. E3 2018, Miyamoto is walking down one of the rows with Reggie at the time. So this is 3 years ago now. And, anyone else walking around, like Corey Barlog I ran into in 2018, literally walked up to him. He was talking to someone. I patiently waited. I didn't want to interrupt, of course. Walked over to him after, said, "Hey, man, game is incredible. Really appreciate what you do. Just wanted to say hi and everything." He was super appreciative. He thanked me, shook my hand, got a picture together. Reggie and Miyamoto had a string of about 8 bodyguards around them. And not only could you not get near them, they cleared the row for them the main show floor. I'm not talking about some back office thing, the show floor.
Right.
As they walked through, they cleared them. But when I even tried to take a picture from like 8 feet away of just them, not with them, just them, the bodyguard reached out and put my phone down and said, "You can't take pictures." So you want to tell me how disconnected they are from their fan base? I don't like to hear, that they're like, I think they're just disconnected in a way that other PlayStation and Xboxes we're talking about aren't, because it's just, I've seen it, and you don't see any interaction with them and the fans.
Did you fight him?
Reggie's have you seen Reggie in real life? That's a big dude.
I have not.
He's a big boy.
You got to get through 8 bodyguards.
They were surrounded.
Ains a fit dude, but like he's no John Wick.
Reggie.
Miyamoto, I could have picked up and kind of moved him around, but
yeah.
To an extent, I do get that. Like if Miyamoto is like, he is a living legend, right? Sure. I bet there is some like weirdos or whatever. He's like Biden. We got to protect him at all costs. That's kind of what I was saying.
There's so many other like big. I mean, Miyamoto is Miyamoto. Nobody's Miyamoto, but there's other big.
Fragile. A strong breeze, he can topple.
But like for instance, I was standing at the Watch Dogs Legion booth that year, or maybe this was 2019. I don't remember. But anyway, Yves, literally the CEO of Ubisoft, just walked up and he's just standing there talking to people. Nobody else around him. And it's just like this dude he doesn't even speak the best English.
I was gonna say, how was he? He's like, hello,
he's super nice. Going? Super nice and thankful. Just people hanging out in the Ubisoft area. But that's my point, right? Like that dude's worth who knows how much money, and it's like, come on. But anyway, I've never noticed what you guys called out actually until you just said it around the difference between Xbox and PlayStation, because you think of the Xbox Studios. I think Coalition communicates a little better, but I mean, some of those other studios don't interact with their fans really at all.
Sea of Thieves does a good job.
You see, Rare's good. Yeah.
Halo was just like, hey, we're going to talk to you once a month to reassure you that we're okay.
You see those monthly updates? They're good.
Oh, they are good. Crunchy. They're thorough.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, I've literally on another tab got the one up from today right here.
Wait, Ains, do you like Halo? It's episode 1. No one knows.
No, I've never talked about it before. Maybe I should.
Never once. Yeah. I'm thinking about you. This is totally not related, except that I'm just thinking about E3 2019, which is the one I had the fortune of being at. And then Joe, I know you've been to some PAXs and stuff. There's almost no better feeling than getting to tell somebody who made your game, that game that you like, thank you. It's one of the best feelings in the world. Yeah. To just whatever a game is. And I gotta tell you, I mean, like I was walking up to all the people that took up a lot of Xbox mess in 2017. I was going up to the State of Decay people. Hey, I love you guys. I appreciate State of Decay. I love State of Decay 2. And going up to the Rare team, this was before Rare, like Sea of Thieves was at 20 million, right? This is at like the 1 or 2 year anniversary. Now it's like their best selling franchise, like by a good amount. Rare's best selling anyway. But just going up to them and just saying, "Hey, thanks for your game," talking to the developers, that's a good feeling, you know?
Yeah,
awesome.
Nothing's better than like a developer when you're playing their game, they're right beside you, going like, "So you liking it?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm loving it." Like, "Oh, thank God, that's good." like there is like those quick glances you get where like they're looking at what you're doing because the life of a game developer, not like the most luxurious thing, but it always intrigues me of like, these are the people that's deciding what fun is every 6 seconds. And so they're analyzing this game on a deeper level than we could ever even just wrap our heads around.
Yeah.
And so like, there is no better feeling of when you're talking to a dev or even a personality and you're just telling them how much you enjoyed that experience, whether you're a longtime fan, whether you're just a newcomer. It's an awesome feeling. You know?
Yeah, I know you were there, Luke, even though we didn't really talk at the time in 2019. But remember, Ninja Theory at the time was showing off Bleeding Edge. Yeah, before it released. And so I'm standing in this real short line. It's like 6 people or whatever to play it because it was part of FanFest, so you could get quick access. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy standing there, and Bert and I at the time were just like, "Hey, man, what's your role at the studio and stuff?" And he's the one who drew the art for the characters. Which pretty much are the best part of Bleeding Edge. Yeah. The art is fantastic in that game. And so we told him that he was so appreciative to hear us and like a couple other people in line talking to him about like just the artwork and everything. And it's amazing. It's a good feeling.
Yeah. And to get back on the messages, my question for you guys, taking all the social media, all the way, Xbox has been doing it, crushing it, the way Sony's been doing it, seems like it's working out for him. The way Nintendo's doing it, does it actually at the end of the day? Still selling. Like you see the Amazon #1, it's like Monster Hunter Rise. You're like, I didn't even know you can't even talk to people on that game. But
doesn't matter.
Does it really even matter?
No.
None of these, nothing.
No,
you're telling me this show did not convince someone to buy an Xbox.
Doesn't matter. Not this conversation doesn't matter.
So, like, what does matter? Like, if I'm gonna be all nihilist, why does Xbox talk to people in PlayStation? It has to matter at some type of level, right?
Yes, and I think that's part of ecosystems, which is the overused word, but it does make sense, right? Mm-hmm. And then cultivating an audience for long term. Nintendo and Sony did the legwork years ago. Nintendo outpaced Sega in communication and in quality. Regardless of your opinion, Sega shot themselves in the foot by being divided, and Nintendo did not.
I won't be on a show that talks bad about Sega. I just want to put that out there.
Oh god, the Dreamcast days, bring them. The Dreamcast. I had my Nomad. Y'all remember Nomad?
Oh yeah, man. Batteries lasted like 90 minutes.
I was in 4th grade when the Dreamcast came out.
Stop it.
Ains had graduated college. Had you really, Ains?
Oh, you have faith in me. That's nice.
For me, as a kid, I always wanted the Dreamcast. That's the joke. I remember the hallway steps of me talking to another dumb 4th grade kid, and I'm just like, "Man, you're so lucky you have a Dreamcast. That controller looks so cool. There's a screen on a memory card."
Luke, I thought he was going to say, "I remember the hallway steps when my mom was walking me into school."
Yeah,
I remember that too. I love my mom.
Since we're just derailing for a minute to talk Sega and Dreamcast, I loved my Dreamcast. I bought it off a senior when I was a freshman for $200.
I thought you meant like senior as in an old person.
No, I was a freshman in high school. And for $200, he gave me spindles full of burned games, and my kid brain did not connect the fact that I was the reason the Dreamcast would fail. Because I was like, look at all these games. I play Dreamcast a lot. I love it. And I learned so much about that system and how badly designed it was after it, because for years I played the mess out of thing. I loved that controller. It was terrible. Loved it. The wire was on the bottom for some reason.
It wasn't great. Yeah, it wasn't.
I don't get it, but I loved that system, man. That was a cool system. Yeah. And fun fact, Phantasy Star or something or another on there had voice chat. Monster Hunter Rise does not.
Ooh.
Dreamcast, man.
The power.
I fixed your name real quick.
Yeah, Luke Lore killed
the Dreamcast. Oh, don't put that evil on me. I love that system. Right now, I'll just tell you 5 games I loved from it if you want me to. Goodness. Oh, God. I loved that system.
But anyway, what's your question here,
Where
kid?
were you going with this?
Where was I going with it? So anyway, Nintendo did the legwork in terms of building its community, fan base, and legacy. And those kids grew to adults that are now trying to raise their kids on those same types of memories. PlayStation managed to beat out Nintendo with kind of that teenage cool demographic and then made their money on the PS2 big time. And that's where they got market penetration everywhere. And then we get to Xbox, which is trying to be the Sega versus PlayStation, and that didn't quite work. And they really had to find their way because people became disenfranchised with the Call of Duty system. Sony bought the rights, and then it faded for them, and they had to rebrand. So I think that's why their communication and their messaging is becoming the for the gamers mentality, the we're your buddy mentality. They had to find a niche and a way to get in there and make good with fans that they had lost, or make good with new fans as they enter in. And that's why we're seeing the xCloud initiatives. That's why we're seeing them working their way into Asia by way of marketing xCloud with like Korean soccer stars in Korea. They're genuinely trying to gather a fan base and demographic in a way that I don't think the other two need to, but are even trying to.
And I think those two don't need to because they've done the legwork. So you're seeing Xbox doing this legwork in real time because, yeah, they didn't need to focus on these marketplaces because to Xbox they weren't important until they realized, oh wow, we can have this mobile setup that is xCloud.
So you're just repeating everything I just said.
Well, yeah, kind of, but just let me go here. Let me riff here. I wasn't really listening to you.
Hey, so yeah, different. I mean, yeah, the voice.
Yes, thank you, Jesus, Luke. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But like to me, like,
you think they did the legwork, Joe?
What's that?
You think they did the legwork?
I think they did the legwork. Yeah.
What about building a mobile network to game on? What do you think about that?
All right, man. Maybe I was spaced out. Maybe I needed to hook myself in. Go. You know what? Ains, you talk. I'm out of here. Episode 1, final episode.
This is it. Episode 1, the finale.
Yep.
I really wasn't listening to a word I said.
Nope.
Well, that's almost a credit, though, if he wasn't listening, that you both said literally the same thing.
Oh,
that's beautiful. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm a parrot. We found this out today.
What was I going to say now? Now I'm all off topic.
Talking about the legwork thing.
You know what we're seeing in real time as part of that, though, is they're putting in the legwork. No, I'm kidding. They're basically, we're watching them make up for 2013 to 2016, right?
That's what I was going to try to say.
And we're seeing how long of a tail it is to regain trust for these companies.
Yeah,
a lot of that core fan base felt burnt. I don't relate. I've enjoyed. Yeah, I saw the faults with the launch Xbox. I know all the faults. It didn't hurt me or affect me the way it did some people, but a lot of people were really burnt by that and didn't like it. And it's taken years of goodwill and communication to try and build that back. And I think they're doing a good job. And they'll continue to do that. But you can see it when they do step on their own toes or trip a little bit. It's like people pounce. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because they're ready for Xbox to fuck up. And it's just, it's a little different. You guys kind of already pointed out that Nintendo and PlayStation have the benefit of having a larger, more dedicated, maybe not more dedicated, but at least a larger, more tenured fan base in that regard, I think.
I got a question for you guys, because as a PlayStation guy, and I swear to God, I was listening this time. I
appreciate you listening when I speak. That's nice.
Yeah, because Luke is like, come on, he's so white. Anyway, like, as the PlayStation guy, I don't see it. I'm very much like you, Ains. I'm pretty platform agnostic. Like my childhood was Nintendo, my teens was Xbox. In my 20s, it's now PlayStation.
Oh, you're in your 20s now? Congrats, dude.
Thanks, man.
This is good.
I've worked so hard to get here. Yeah. So, but like oftentimes when we talk about communications, let's talk about the media. Is there truly this like Xbox or PlayStation slant?
No,
like
I don't think so.
Like there's like an inherent bias against Xbox. Boo Xbox.
So I talked to Jez about this recently. in depth, and he has a pretty good perspective. I mean, he runs a big outlet, right? It's Xbox focused, and he offered a good perspective of it's not so much, at least in his opinion, which I agree with, it's not so much that there's an inherent media bias. It's the fact, as I preach way too much about, I know, it's the fact that PlayStation has a much bigger global install base. These major sites run off of ad revenue and clicks. We all know how it works. So who are you going to play to more? You're going to play to the much bigger audience. That's just how it's been for years and years and years. And so I think you can find instances where an opinion writer or a contractor, whatever, writes something that's clearly just out there, right? But I think overwhelmingly, I've talked to people that are at big outlets. I've met with them, here and there. Been fortunate to do that, and I would say for the most part, they're balanced, good people who just like gaming. You know what I mean? You don't really get to that level if you don't. So no, I don't think there's an inherent bias. I just think that there is a little bit more focus on PlayStation because that's what drives a bigger audience.
What say you, Luke?
I'm inclined to agree with most of that. I 100% I'm on board with the fact that if there's a bigger audience and sites need revenue, writing articles that are relevant to that audience makes sense. That is not to say that they're writing articles that puff up PlayStation or that diss Xbox or Nintendo or any other competitor. More the fact that if it's relevant to an audience, they're going to be interested. So the article may just be about PlayStation. It's not a positive or negative type thing.
Yeah, exactly. So imagine right now, right? How many big articles from big sites are you seeing about the future of Stadia?
Yeah. Almost none. Because there's no one interested.
There's no one going to read it. Yeah.
Right. Now, as far as the slant and the word choice and whatnot, I mean, I spent some time briefly as a journalist, and I do know that there are like words that bring a connotation and a power to them that can subtly hint towards different biases and whatnot. But the majority of the time from our respectable sites, I very much feel like the reason you might see more positive PlayStation stuff is there were for a long time more positive things to say about the games on the platform.
Yeah.
And obviously Xbox is my beat and where I cover it, and I personally have a lot more interest in quite a bit of Xbox's catalog. But you're gonna write something negative about God of War, about Horizon, about Spider-Man, about Ghost of Tsushima. There's just not a lot negative to say there, and there's a lot of positive things to say. And if that's generating interest in a platform and the stuff's good, it would certainly seem to lend itself towards the perception of a bias. But I don't buy into that argument, and I don't engage in that argument. That's not my interest level, and I won't spend time discussing or going into that road with people on Twitter.
Yeah, and people want to, right? They want to try and prove that there's some sort of bias. But I think region matters too. Your audience, so not the platform, not Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, what have you, but the actual site's region. They know where their demographic is, right? So if you're, like the conversation with Xbox is very different in North America than it is in Japan. I mean, that's an easy example to make, right?
Yeah.
And I've talked to, for instance, Asa and I talked about this, who runs Game On Daily. Now that's a British site, but I mean, it's again, big population in the US. And they, he even told me that they see a better response, generally speaking, bigger response, not better, bigger response to Xbox things. Now that could just speak to the audience. It could speak to a little bit, I think anyway, and I've seen it with my site, is a shift in, like we were just talking about, the past couple years now have been good for Xbox. And that momentum of interest for the brand is starting to shift back up. And so I think there's a growing interest there too. So there's a lot that goes into it, but after all that, Joe, the shortest answer is I don't think there is an inherent bias that people want to believe there is.
Yeah, and I think that's something that it's awesome that we push back on that, because there are people that just look, I get it, pander to it because they want to chase a buck or they want to chase some clout. I get it. As a YouTuber ish myself, I definitely see that. That's why I see that, and that's why I've been so disenfranchised with it, because it's not about the conversation. It's about the, bullshit, really.
Yeah.
And
don't get me started. You know, I can rant about this for hours.
Exactly. And the thing is, Ains, as well, like, I hate, like, so much in my core, we've talked about this as well, so I'll say it here in the show, when I see people trash an IGN or a GameSpot or whatever, because there are good people that work there, people that want to change the dialogue, want to change the conversation away from the Xbox, the Sonys, or whatever. And when people are like, "Oh, they have a slant," and my job is like, no, you're upset about an opinion piece that straight up on the thumbnail says opinion of an author, not the site, you moron.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the frustration.
Yeah.
We should also note reviews are opinions on things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the IGNs and the GameSpots have doubled down on rectifying some awkward situations over the past few years with some reviewers and content and opinion and their experiences with certain games. But they tend to be very good about saying, hey, this is what our reviewer thought. They backed it up for these reasons, and we stand by it. And I appreciate that wholeheartedly. Yeah. There's a responsibility that comes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. You're fine. Finish. I didn't mean to interrupt your point.
There's a responsibility that comes with being a high-profile site, right? Yeah. There's also a responsibility with cultivating your audience, something we've seen influencers have to work on in the past few months, especially, but years. And those two are not the same. A journalistic outlet, an enthusiast outlet, an influencer, those are three different entities, but all are responsible for being clear with the people that consume their content, right? And that's an important thing to do. And you cultivate that audience appropriately. And that's goes back to Joe's point about the way that we talk about other systems that outside of our beat or our interest. But back to the IGN aspects of it, or the GameSpots. I don't want to beat up on IGN. I appreciate when they support their reviewers wholeheartedly and make them back it up. And if something's in error, acknowledge it.
Yeah,
being forward facing is so important.
You have to. Yeah, I mean, as small as we are as an outlet, right? An outlet-ish. I'll add Joe's thing. There's even that responsibility for us, like anyone that reviews a game for us that I've also played. Like, I know, for instance, Dan, who put himself 130, 140, 150 hours into Cyberpunk, finished it, did everything I did in it, right? He doesn't agree with my review score. And that is what
giving it a 7?
I think he's probably higher than a 7, but yeah. But that's become the meme example, right? Joe. Dan gave Assassin's Creed Valhalla a 7. And I, when he sent that to me to edit and kind of, review, I talked to him about it for the exact reason you're talking about, Luke. Okay. 7, that's pretty low compared to where the game is coming out of other popular outlets and stuff. And, why do you feel this way? We went back and forth for a while, and I'm like, all right, man, you've made your points. They're valid to me. This is your opinion. That's it.
I'm going to give everybody your street address and how they can get in contact.
We made a T-shirt saying Seasons Gaming with a 7 in the Assassin's Creed font. And, I mean, but it is what it is. And we've had other ones like that. So, yeah, there is a responsibility, though. I think if the site's doing their due diligence and really making sure. The other thing with reviews, while we're on the subject, that I've noticed is we do, and I know obviously much bigger sites do, is you try to find people to review a game that can truly speak to that game. Like, I'm not let me pick a genre I don't like. Monster Hunter, perfect example. I don't like Monster Hunter. I joke with it all the time. I've tried to get into it. I can't. I just don't enjoy the game. There's zero reason why I should be reviewing Monster Hunter Rise, right? Because I don't have the context. I don't have the history with the franchise. I don't know how to compare it to other entries in the franchise. There's a whole list of things. So Patrick goes by Elu, who you guys I think know, great writer. He loves Monster Hunter. He has the history on it, context, all that. He's doing our review because he can speak to it. When Halo Infinite comes out, I'll do the review because I'm so deep into Halo. I know what the game needs to be or should be, and I can call out the things that it's not. So I know other sites do that. Dan Stapleton, we're back to IGN again, but Dan Stapleton is the IGN reviews editor. And he's spoken at length, even on video, about these types of conversations and how much they go through to find the right people, to review scores and what's written and everything else. So
yeah,
it's way more extensive than I think people think. There's just some guy getting paid a lot of money at Kotaku to go out and say, here's our review, this game's a 2, and and then just loving it. And that's
a lot of people don't understand that a lot of people that are writing these stories are contract.
Yeah,
like they're not even like, they don't got healthcare, y'all. Like you're yelling at, like you're
So
yelling
back
at,
off, because their mental health is not being taken care of.
Exactly, dude.
And don't come to us. Season Gaming does not have a healthcare plan.
That we don't. Yeah. So yeah, like that's the thing is, I think we have to and bringing in the communication talk in the whole here is we got to be better with communicating to our audiences and being real with our audiences. I think at the end of the day, YouTube is just so toxic because it is about the catchy thumbnail. We're gonna say something crazy in the title. You're gonna fall for it every time.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
And yeah, so it's a breath of fresh air to just kind of say like, yeah, look, there is no bias here. There's a reason as to the reason why articles are written in certain ways or whatnot, but like at the same exact time, there's a reason why Xbox is talking to you the way they are, reason why Sony's talking to you the way you are. It's a reason why you let Nintendo get away with everything. I got a question for you though, guys. Yeah, go.
Hold on one second. I want to double down on that because we started that talking about the big 3, and then we ended up talking about like media outlets and then enthusiast outlets. Like there's a reason why Dan Stapleton and the IGN crew have gone on and discussed their review process, discussed how they go about it. Then you have the enthusiast faux journalists, like maybe Kind of Funny or Easy Ally, maybe not Easy Allies, but my point is you have people go on and discuss where and how they're approaching a topic, and then enthusiast outlets do the same thing. And I think that's very important because we're all content creators and host our own shows outside of it with our various beats and the things we're interested in. And I've gone through the same thing Ains talked about where I don't want to review this. Like there's some big games that came out. I was going to review The Medium.
Okay.
It didn't strike at the right time. It wouldn't have been a healthy review. Wouldn't be the right person to do it. Really. I love Bloober Team, but I like them when I feel like it. That's a balance, like you have to, and communicating that with your audience is kind of where I'm going with that aspect of it. And in a gaming community that suffers from so many types of miscommunication, I guess my thesis is it's important to talk to your audience, set expectations appropriately, regardless of who's doing the talking and where. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Nintendo. It doesn't matter if it's a GameSpot. It doesn't matter if it's a Seasoned Gaming or a co-op cast. Talking to your audience and letting them know what to expect, what you are thinking, where your head is at, and that you're willing to grow and change is important.
Yeah, it's transparency, right? Be transparent, be honest. And you also have to accept, just to kind of bookend this, to Joe's point on some of those people that want to talk about media or push the narrative that there's media. There is a percentage of people you're not going to get through to. You have to accept that. There's people that want to argue. There's people that want to debate, and they live for it. And, I think if you offer constructive criticism to someone who reviews a game and, you feel like saying, if I review a game, for instance, and I give it an 8 and someone reaches out and say, how the hell did you give that an 8? I'd give it a 5. And, it depends on how you approach that conversation. You can read someone pretty quickly on if you can have a constructive discussion around why I gave it an 8 versus they wouldn't have, or you can tell right away, like, oh, you're an idiot. That game's terrible. I don't know how you gave it an 8. It's like, okay, you're muted and I'm moving on. I don't even bother, and you just have to accept there's people that it's not. If you're someone who's putting content out there, my point, you have to be transparent, everything you guys just said, but you also have to accept that there are a percentage of people you're just not going to get through to, and it's not worth your time.
Yeah. I got a question for you guys. To wrap this up, maybe this is like the nice little junk food we have before we go our separate ways. Is we're starting this journey together today, right? And there's been some journeys set a few months ago with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S, and I just want to have kind of your input of where do you see this year for each individual company. Because the way I see it is, the pandemic situation has thrown so many so many of us through a loop. And after seeing delay after delay after delay, I want to know what your expectations are for this. Because I mean, just a few days ago it was Gotham Knights. Today it's like Back for Blood
Yeah.
delayed. So like, where
Did it really? I missed that.
Yeah,
so late till
till
October.
Okay, so
Around
we
my
got
birthday.
Aliens and Second Extinction. Then time to play those. Positive,
Co-op
maybe, I
shooters,
don't know.
Aliens, man. Let's talk about it. But anyway,
But what is your
really
expectations for this year, Ains? I'll start with you.
yeah. So by expectations, do you mean like what do I think they're actually going to release? Are we talking games, or are we just talking like overall? Is that what you want? Yeah.
Yeah, talking games.
Yeah. So Xbox is interesting because we know Halo. It goes. That's the big one. So assuming that's November, like everyone thinks it is, and they even teased it is. You have these we're going to see tomorrow, right? Some of these other kind of AA releases coming throughout the year, which is awesome. I've heard from multiple people I trust now, including Jez has said the same thing, that Xbox does have 2 big games coming this year that they haven't announced yet formally. Now, prevailing rumors are around Starfield or Forza Horizon 5. Whether or not that's the case, I can't say at this time, but I do think they will plan to release another first-party major game. What would be a major release sometime in the fall, late September, or even, maybe I don't think they release something after Halo, honestly. So I would think maybe September, early October. But I think that's about it. I don't see them having anything else huge this year. There's not enough time. Okay. PlayStation's interesting. I have you clipped, by the way, sir, that Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West is coming this year, no matter what.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely it is.
Okay. So if we go along those lines, PlayStation has a fantastic May and June coming up, right? We got Deathloop, we got Returnal, we've got Ratchet and Clank. I mean, we've got some bangers coming out for PlayStation, which is awesome.
Deathloop's not a banger. I don't think Deathloop's a banger.
You don't talk about Arcane is like Sega for developers.
I mean, you can say that, but it's not going to sell. I'm not knocking Deathloop.
It's the Sega of developers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you know what? There you go.
Is the Toyota Corolla the best car on the market? Hell no.
It is. Just sells a lot. What I got.
Man, that game's releasing and dying. I think you clip that one. That's a prediction. I do not think Deathloop's going to do well.
I don't think it's gonna do well either. That doesn't speak to its quality.
Yeah.
Well, don't you need it to play against people?
No.
Isn't that the premise?
No,
it's not. It's not
another 100
game.
You can if you want to, or you can have it just the AI set. You don't have to have another person hunting you.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, here's hoping.
Man.
Who
but
said
anyway,
I like bad games? Not me.
My point was, don't talk about Dishonored that way. My point was,
how dare you?
We live in a
society.
You just Arcane, man. Dishonored 2, Prey.
I said Deathloop.
Okay. No, I thought Ains was coming at me for my Dishonored.
I was joking about you with Dishonored, but
Ains was trying to fight you,
to their pedigree of quality.
You would win. Okay, good.
But let's assume on the PlayStation side, I continue to see no way in hell that Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok release this fall.
Really?
I just don't see it. If they do, hey, better for it, right? Fantastic. Right. But even if they don't, if Forbidden West, we'll go with Joe's line of thinking. Forbidden West absolutely releases this fall. And then obviously they're going to have marketing. We're hearing that Final Fantasy 16 may be closer than most people thought.
I don't think that game. That's the game like Snowball Hell and Chance.
Me too. Me too. But what people say. Who knows? Yeah. But anyway, I think PlayStation will have a good fall no matter what, because they're good at finding ways to fill those gaps, and I think that they'll do that this fall. Nintendo's a wild card because is the Switch Pro actually coming this year? Even if it does, how many are they going to make? Are they going to
they make with that chip shortage?
Exactly. So who knows what impact that will have? Doesn't matter. Switch is the best-selling console in the market for like 8 years running. Nothing's touching it. So the big question for them, of course, is will Breath of the Wild 2 release? Yeah. It was supposed to be for last year. Pandemic, who knows what's going on with that game because their communication, which we already touched on, is about as lackluster as it gets. Metroid is apparently a dead IP. I don't know what's going on over at Nintendo.
Oh God, it hurts so much. Why? It's the coolest character you've got. It has the best trilogy, collective trilogy, mind you, of games that you've got. Like
I don't know. I mean,
so
look,
good. 2D games are great.
You can't. Last year they released Metroid Animal Crossing in March, and they were like, "Peace," and they just left for the year.
Yeah.
And they still beat everything in sales by a mile. So Nintendo, I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah, this year in games, because I have like this PTSD of the one and the PS4's first year of it being like abysmal. Yeah, you had Titanfall, it did not deliver. Watch Dogs, remember that? Woof. And then you had Destiny.
You meant Xbox One. You said PlayStation 4.
Yeah, Xbox One and PlayStation 4.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You know, for certain games, I know Titanfall, Xbox One.
We're talking bad about Titanfall now. What do we?
No. I love it, but it just didn't sell like after the first month.
I know what he meant. Yeah.
Community kind of just
Sunset Overdrive too, first year.
And just like these games coming out and just middling, and even Destiny. I remember that whole conversation of like, so this game's a 6. What do we do? Right? Like, how does this game recover? And it's always to me of thinking for the roadmap for PlayStation.
Yeah,
it is kind of like the same thing. Like we got our what should have been the first 6 months of PlayStation. I feel for the first year in the PlayStation 5, like Returnal just went gold.
Yep.
I hope that game does great.
Me too.
But I do in the back of my mind go, it could be an Order 1886. We don't know. But Luke can't talk shit about it because the artist that works on Returnal also worked on a Snyder Cut. So
I have more faith in Returnal than I do Deathloop. And I'm not being silly or go ahead, anybody.
Leave Deathloop alone.
Am I wrong? Am I crazy for thinking that Returnal is going to be more successful than Deathloop? Am I just out of the zone and not understanding? Because it feels to me like Returnal.
I think the problem Returnal has, and maybe this is just social media, but I have it pre-ordered, so it's not me. But
it's not Ains, everybody. Mark it.
Yeah, mark it. I didn't kill the Dreamcast like some on this panel. But
that's right.
I don't know if people see $70 in value out of Returnal. Whereas Deathloop is a major publisher in Bethesda. Whether or not people see $70 out of that, I don't know. But
that one's 60. That one's 60.
That's
you can get it on PSN for 50.
PS4 title, technically, right? Yeah. So I don't know. If I had to bet, I don't think either of them are going to sell extremely well. Mm-hmm. But if I had to bet one against the other, I would bet on Deathloop versus Returnal.
Yeah. Just because as much as like Housemarque's a great name, it is a new IP. This is their first AAA game. Where like you could say, Deathloop first IP for Arcane, but it's Arcane, the Sega of developers. So like I think they have a little bit more prestige there than I say a Housemarque. And so that's why for me, like as much as I want Returnal to be awesome, just like I want every game to be awesome, but I'm rooting for those devs. It is a question mark.
Yeah. And why does the main character look like a 50-year-old science teacher?
I mean, that's cool though, because what is an air? Is it? No. Like, if you're an astronaut, are you hiring some like hot, 23-year-old?
No, I get it. I'm not saying it has to be some hot young girl or anything. I'm just saying she just looks boring.
I don't know. I like it. I like her character design. There's a lot of mystery around that story, but then like the art style doesn't necessarily speak to me as well. So to me, it's like, could it be a lawbreaker situation where it's like the art styles is like, pass. And does that price tag, like does that price tag actually hurt? Like we say it could, because we're fickle as all hell. So like, we say we won't buy something, damn it, but we end up buying that thing anyway. So that's where my biggest question mark is for Sony this year is like, does that $70 price tag actually change the way we look at games, their games in particular? That's my kind of thought towards it, because I know both of these consoles, PS5 and Xbox, are going to sell well. It is that catalog that I am like a little faintly concerned about.
I think the price tag on things like Returnal hurt more in their audience overseas, right? I've talked to many people now where you're talking about like for a conversion rate, it's like $90. in euros, like in Germany. I talked to Archimedes and some other guys about that kind of stuff, and it's like, you look at Returnal, do you see $90? Come on, I don't. No. I don't know if you see 70 to the point. I'm going to buy it because I love Housemark and I'm excited to play it on my PS5. But for your average consumer, you made the point, new IP, the art style looks kind of, if you don't follow it like we do, if you're just looking at that game art or that cover, you're like, why is the science teacher on the front of my game? And $70, I don't know, man. I don't have a lot of faith in it.
Well, that's the benefit of having an install base of something like Game Pass or putting the game into PlayStation Plus. Sony was very smart with, and I forget the title.
Oddworld,
Joe. No, not Oddworld.
Oh.
Was mine Oddworld?
Well, no, but that's PS Plus next week. So
yeah.
What's the one? There was one that they just released about cars, and it looked like Demolition.
Oh, Destruction All Stars.
Thank you. Yes, I was blanking on the name. But that was exactly what they should have done with that game because new IP, decent looking game. People would have played it, but if that had been a $70 launch game, you'd have sold your launch people, but it would have gone. Yeah. So that's the value of those subscription services.
Even being free.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but I'm thinking about the $70 tag here, and back to Joe's question of where do we see these companies going? I don't think that $70 tag hurts them this year because people are starved for content. But as people are getting out of the houses, as games that are in the AAA space become more AAA as the generation wears on, as your Gotham Knights and your Ragnaroks start to release, I think that tag will be much more insidious to the smaller titles, to the ones that right now don't have the competition on the shelf, the ones that are out there like Outriders, right? You put that next to some of the bigger boys in the AAA space, and it's going to fade. Right now, it's getting its time in the sun, and I think people are going to pay $70 for it, or on Game Pass, right? And it'll be a good comparison point. But if that were releasing next to Gotham Knights and insert AAA title, Hellblade 2 or whatnot, we'd forget about it pretty quickly. And that like who's spending $70 on an Outriders style game when Ragnarok's next to it?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about en masse, right? En masse. There will always be exceptions.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No. And I think Returnal, the only benefit I see with Returnal is where it's releasing. It's kind of the first PS5 dedicated release over the last few months. And so I think people may be ready to play something, even though right after it, it may die off quickly. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Where's PlayStation the rest of the year then? So after June, you have Ratchet and Clank, right? But then we don't know. You have what is it, Kena coming at some point?
August.
4. I was gonna say you're supposed to. Well, I'm supposed to know too, but that's coming in August, so that looks fantastic. I'm super hyped about Kena, but you think Horizon's definitely coming. What else? Do you think Ragnarok's coming too? Do you think they are going to land both those games?
No. It's the way Jim Ryan said it in that GQ article. God, why GQ?
Talk about messaging.
Because it's Jim Ryan. That's why.
Because it's Jim Ryan. It's about male lifestyle, and that's what he's like. GQ. Let's go. In that GQ article, in the same breath that he said that Gran Turismo was going to get delayed
till next year. Yeah.
Yep. That he's like, our focus is Ratchet and Horizon. So just the way, like, unless like someone's computer like blows up, I don't know, someone spills coffee on a server, I think that game is pretty safe because the way that I've interpreted it from some I got an inside source from some people is that this game's been in development for a minute.
Yeah,
I believe it was in the No Clip article because I want to give the source some spotlight. I believe it's in their documentary where they're just like, we've been looking at this for a long time, and this was originally supposed to be a PS4 game, but question mark, and now we know it's a cross-generational game, which is the worst. Question mark. That's what the internet tells me. It's not really next gen if it can run on another PlayStation. But yeah, so I think that game's gonna be coming out maybe September, maybe November. It's not competing with Halo. It doesn't need to. So they could just put that out wherever. It could be late in the year, but that thing's coming out.
You think they have any other big AAA game in the fall?
Mm,
First party, I mean.
no. I would be really, really surprised if we see Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
Really surprised. And I just don't see it. I think you're going to see like a third party thing, maybe. You're going to see a lot of third party deals, but not anything like I think Horizon's it. And I think Horizon's very lucky that it is going to fall in this year where it is, because I don't think the competition's going to be there. You know, it's going to be some pickings this year.
Fair.
Thinking
What about
Gran
you?
Turismo? Where are they at?
No. See, you weren't listening now. We said this 5 minutes ago, Luke. You dumb idiot. It's a GQR called Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan.
Oh, was that a GQR? I zoned out because it's just not my caliber.
Yeah, they delayed it to. They just said next year. It's Gran Turismo. If you thought it was releasing on a date, you're out of your mind. It never has in 20 years. So
keep in mind, Joe, Gran Turismo not coming out this year, so they do not have a game, in that fall. Maybe Final Fantasy 16. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe, perhaps. But who knows?
Look at Ains. He's like, wait, are they being serious right now?
What happened?
What? This is a bit. This is a bad bit, but a bit nonetheless.
Bad bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
riffing because we don't listen to each other.
So, Laura, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
You're an Xbox guy. You got this podcast all about it.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see Xbox's lineup? What do they got cooking this year?
Do you see, Luke? So yeah, direct. Do you see what I said? Like, we've heard about the 2 titles, right? I know that's been mentioned a few times. They haven't announced.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see Starfield, Forza Horizon 5, or something unannounced else launching?
If you guys listened to XCP and you heard my recent guest Jeff Grubb talk about this, we played This Year or Not. I'm just giving you a hard time. I do see Halo, obviously, because there were questions as to whether or not that would slip. Mm-hmm. Starfield is a strong maybe. Starfield's a strong maybe, and Forza Horizon is likely. Beyond that, I think you're looking at smaller titles, AA down to what we would effectively call indie. I'm thinking like Battletoads level type stuff, just without the brand recognition of something like that. I don't see Everwild. I don't see some of these other ones. Now, see, everyone's quick to dismiss Everwild. At first, I wasn't as quick to dismiss it because we don't know the size of that game, the scope, I should say, of that game.
They're still hiring for people to make that game.
Yeah. I'm derailing only to ask, do you think that's a big game, like in terms of scope and scale?
That's a good
What's
question.
a big game for Rare?
Yeah, I don't
like. I think like Sea of Thieves when it launched.
Empty? I mean, like,
yeah, probably.
I'm not trying to joke. I mean, that is literally Rare's best-selling title now, and it is making gangbuster money.
I think Everwild's a different. From what I've seen and heard, I think it's a different approach. I think that's more of a single-player, open-world experience. But I don't know what it's gonna.
That looked to me like Journey, third person. In my mind, it was like a Journey level game.
I think it's much broader than that. I think
I'm right with you. I'm gathering that, but at first impression, I was like, what'd you say?
Does Ains have an inside source? You have an inside source?
Well, Luke's over here just hanging out with Jeff Grubb. So what?
Right, name drop it. Oh, cause it's Jeff Grubb. No.
I mean, I'm getting my name out there, guys. I'm just trying to make it. Okay, it's a tough place to be.
It's a dog-eat-dog world.
Starfield, though. I mean, well, first of all, we don't know. To go back to the original question, it looks pretty barren for Microsoft, right? As barren, if not more, than Sony, because Sony's pretty barren also. Like, if we're being honest, they both are. And if there's going to be a year to be barren, like, this is it. Like, you don't have any competition. People are still buying all your stuff. You can't even make enough chips to get things out there. Yeah. And Microsoft's got a service where you can play the latest games without having the latest system. All right. So there is something to that. And what Joe said about deals, Sony has been making the deals left and right for third-party exclusive stuff. For God's sakes, you level up faster in Call of Duty on a PlayStation. That's weird. Like, I don't like that, but I also don't care enough about Call of Duty. But somebody does, right? Somebody does. Somebody's buying COD on PlayStation versus not. Are they going to make those same deals going forward through the course of this year? I think they have to.
Yes. Absolutely.
What got the PS4 through a very empty launch was third-party stuff like Assassin's Creed and indies. And then Infamous hit, but then it got quiet again, right? Microsoft actually launched with better exclusives, Sunset Overdrive and Titanfall. they had a bad system. There's a lot to that. But this year is going to be dry. And I really think because things have gotten better on the development side, people have figured out how to create in this environment. I'm thinking the 2022 games are going to be the real deal. That is your big time heavy hitters. And I'm devastated Gotham Knights got moved. Like Luke Lore needs a DC game. I'm just ready for it. And I'm devastated that got moved, but it's only for the better. It's the same way I felt about Halo. Devastated. I'm not playing Infinite right now. Ecstatic that they're gonna really do the game justice.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think you're right. I think they need for Xbox it is a lot more quiet. Not by much, but it's gonna be a bit more quiet. And I think what Sony's done to make their system seem louder in terms of game releases is, I mean, look, we got Returnal, we got Resident Evil 8, you got Deathloop, all coming out within weeks of each other, all of which
I'm reviewing all three of those damn games.
All three of those games Ains is going to review. You should check it out at Season Gaming. And like they all have PlayStation marketing. But like they all have PlayStation marketing. Yeah. And then like in June, you're going to have Ratchet and Clank. And then of course, summer is like the lull. But you know, you'll have a few indies there and you'll have Kena to look forward to. So like PlayStation's carefully plotted out their approach. It is slimmer than it once was, especially compared to last year. But like I think, you know, Luke's right in the fact of like, I don't think that price tag that the $70 matters in the grand scheme of everybody's so bored. They're in their house. I need something to play. I need something to escape the lockdowns. Yeah. So like, yeah, I definitely think that Sony's in a great place too. And I hopefully will see Xbox with those third-party deals. And I think having those Game Pass deals being those things, like, I'm just throwing it out there. Like, you know, Call of Duty, yeah, play it anywhere, but like this is the exclusive, you know, Game Pass players get to play it type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
The Game Pass perks, and then I mean, if the Discord thing, I know we're winding down, but if the Discord thing goes through, there's a lot of potential marketing elements that could pave the way. I mean, we're seeing a lot of make me focus. We're seeing a lot of cross-pollination in audiences right now. Right, every time we play Joe, with the exception of Sea of Thieves, which Ainsley never wants to play with us.
That's what it is. Yeah,
we are playing crossplay. You're on your PlayStation, and like it doesn't affect me. Cool, it works, and it's getting better every month. So those deals are going to be the make or break element of this year in terms of numbers of engagement, which is better than sold because they can't even make enough. But we'll see. You know.
I think that's the thing that hurts Returnal and Deathloop the most is the fact that there's just not enough PlayStation 5s out there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's also like, yeah, what are the goals that PlayStation has set for these things? Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, it's got to be said, if you're Arcane or Bethesda, whoever signs that deal 2 years ago or whenever it's sold, you know, signed to bring Deathloop exclusive to PS5 for a year, you're thinking, okay, this will release. They'll have 6 to 8 months of install base for PS5. You've, you know, because of everything going on, you've got maybe half that now, you know, of what would have been. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Well, gang.
Well, boys, I feel like we're winding down here.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are fading, you young bucks, you know.
This was an absolute. Did you bring orange slices? Drinking your tea?
Yeah, he's done. Now I'm fading.
Well, gentlemen, this was an absolute pleasure for episode 1 of Cast Co-op. It's a riff on Couch Co-op, and we couldn't settle on a name in general.
He's explaining it.
Oh, remember that? No, I'm going there. Okay. It took us a week to figure out.
A week?
Even the first. It took us a month, really. And then this show should have been out forever ago, and Joe's like, I got to get sick. And I was like, all right.
I know. Jesus.
Here we are.
Excuses out of this guy right here.
You know, he's selfish.
That's right. Thank you, Ains. Thank you. I'm glad someone else sees it. You know, this is my life on a daily basis. I don't know. All right, Joe, where can people find you, good sir? And what content are you putting out coming up?
You can find me over on the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast, where each and every Thursday, me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest, the greatest in all things PlayStation. This week, we were joined by none other than the man himself, right over there, the top left corner, Ainsley from Season Gaming.
That's the second.
And
Like
he
to be
says,
called Ainsley.
he said, I was about to say, he said that I'm the only one that gets to call him Ainsley. You can find that wherever you find your podcast services, whether that's Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Over there on YouTube's a video version of the show. And you can find me over at Mr. Badbit and PS Trophy Room on Twitter as well.
And Ainsley, the man of Season Gaming. I'd like you to send people where they need to send to be sent for your content. And I do want to give Ainsley a shout out because he put together all the logistics of this show, which was absolutely great because Joe and I are awful, just awful, at everything. You know,
so
like
you can find on this new show, guys. It's called Cast Co-op. It's a play on couch co-op.
There you go.
Wow, that's crazy.
This guy's a thinker. This guy's a thinker.
Seasongaming.com. You guys know where to find me. Anyone listening to this knows where to find me. I'm Portia Power. That's Portia Power on everywhere else. Not Poor Shopper, not anything else you may imagine. Just look up Ainsley, man. There's only like 6 of us in the world.
Don't call me.
There's 6 of us in the world and 4 of us are women. Like, come on, you can find me. I'm easy to find.
Oh man. Okay, before I give my stuff, I do want to give a huge thank you to Adam Leonard for doing the art for this podcast and the intro music, which I assume we played in this edited version. I mean, whatever. We'll see.
It'd be great.
Yeah. That's good. Guys, you can find me over at Insipid Ghost on the Twitterverse and hosting the Xbox Expansion Pass each and every week on podcast service of your choice, including youtube.com/Xbox Expansion Pass. I did just speak with Jeffrey Grubb at the time of this publishing. And by the time the next one gets published, I'll be speaking to the people at Aspire Media who port games forward, like Stubbs the Zombie and Star Wars Racer and whatnot. So that's on my to-do list here.
Nice.
I think we've done it.
I like you guys, how you have a scripted thing you say about your shows too. One day I'll get there.
We're professionals.
Yeah.
We're professionals. Come on. Yeah.
Now we have to have a tag out. We gotta have a tag out.
Yeah.
Like over at the PlayStation podcast, we got, keep hunting, keep playing PlayStation.
Which is lame. That's a really dumb thing you say.
Oh, okay. Well, then keep casting that co-op.